Meet Sheila Godwin, a woman from the slums with distinct white hair and red eyes. She is trapped in a dark room, forced to kneel before the imposing noblewoman, Clara Priestley. Clara gives her a final chance to decide. The leverage is clear. Sheila's battered father is tied up behind them. Clara calmly explains that her father's life depends entirely on her answer. Looking at the man who caused her so much pain, Sheila finally breaks. She cries out that she will go through with the marriage. Through her tears, she agrees to the deal. She will impersonate Clara, marry the infamous Duke Alcott, and become his fourth bride. A few days earlier, Sheila's life was an endless cycle of misery. Her father, a cruel and bitter man, reminded her that her only value was the price she could be sold for. He shoved her to the ground, demanding she go out and buy him more to drink. This was the monster she was desperate to escape. While out in the city, she overheard whispers about a major event, the marriage between the Alcott and Priestley families. The townspeople pitted the young Clara Priestley for being sent to marry the terrifying old Duke, a man who had already outlived 3 wives. But speaking ill of nobles has consequences. Suddenly, Priestley guards stormed through the crowd. An imposing woman silenced the gossip by having the talkers forcefully removed. As the women were dragged away, the woman gave a chilling order to her men: continue the search for a girl with red hair and red eyes. This fateful search would soon change Sheila's life forever. The head guard gave her men a new order: find a girl with red eyes and bring her to the young lady, pretending it was a job offer. Hiding nearby, Sheila overheard them. She knew red eyes were a Priestley family trait, but never thought it would concern her. Later, she kneels before the real Clara, who taunts her, saying her father's pain could have been avoided if she'd complied sooner. Clara grabs Sheila's chin, sneering that her face is the only reason a slum girl gets this chance. While the red eyes are passable, the white hair is not. Clara yanks her hair back, ordering her guards to dye it red to complete the disguise. Sheila is then dragged away, her fate sealed. With her transformation complete, Clara assigns a maid named Molly to monitor Sheila's every move. She gives her a final, chilling warning: behave, stay vigilant, and never let anyone discover she is a fake. If she fails, her life will be forfeit. Now fully disguised, Sheila is briefed on the viper's nest she's about to enter. Clara explains that Duke Alcott is an old, lecherous man, but the true danger lies with his children. Of the many he's fathered, only 4 remain in the estate, all caught in a bitter fight for power. Clara stresses that the one to watch is Ulysses Alcott, the devilish second son. She describes him as a master manipulator with a terrifying mind. She warns Sheila to keep her distance, telling her that if Ulysses sets his sights on her, he will make her wish she was never born. Confident in her knowledge, Clara smirks, declaring that Sheila will now take her place and jump into that pit of fire. With that, she orders her new decoy to be sent away to the Alcott estate. As guards drag Sheila away, she desperately reminds Clara of her promise to ensure her father lives. But beneath her pleas, a darker thought takes shape. She doesn't want him saved out of love. She wants him to live until the day she can end his miserable life with her own hands. On the long carriage ride to the Alcott estate, her assigned spy, Molly, tries to assert authority. She reminds Sheila that she is just a commoner and must not betray the Priestley family. Playing the part of a timid girl, Sheila feigns obedience. Suddenly, the act drops. Sheila's demeanor turns cold as she asks if she needs permission for every little thing. Before Molly can react, Sheila grabs her arm with surprising strength. She declares that the woman who was afraid to go to the Alcott territory is gone. From this moment on, she is Clara Priestley, the young lady. Molly stares in shock, realizing the meek girl was a facade. Sheila smiles to herself, finally leaving the slums behind for good. The long journey through the freezing mountains is exhausting. She tells Molly not to waste her energy and lays out the new rules: treat her as the real Lady Clara and swear never to report back to her true master. When the maid defiantly refuses, Sheila calmly informs her that she has plenty of methods to ensure cooperation. With the power dynamic firmly established, Sheila turns her focus to a map. She studies the Alcott territory, the northernmost land in the kingdom. The narration paints a grim picture. The people there are known for their savagery and violence, making them extremely difficult to deal with. Sheila is heading straight into a viper's nest. As Sheila analyzed the map, she considered the man she was supposed to marry, Duke Alcott, a lecherous old man with a disturbing history. He'd already gone through 3 young and beautiful wives, all of whom met their end under mysterious circumstances. Those wives left behind numerous children, each one scheming and fighting for power within the family. Sheila realized the cruel Clara Priestley had been right. This northern territory was a pit of fire, just waiting for her to jump in. But she hadn't come all this way only to fail. She remembered being given a small vial of a potent liquid, a medicine so strong that one drop was enough to fell dozens of rats. A brilliant plan began to form. If she could find a way to serve the poison to the Duke on their wedding night, she could avoid a terrible fate and secure her future as a wealthy widow. To her, this sounded like a wonderful beginning. The coachman calls out to Miss Clara, announcing they've finally reached Blizzard City. Peeking through the curtains, Sheila gasps at the sight of the magnificent Alcott castle. She marvels at its beauty, declaring that she must do her best to welcome this new chapter. Her ambition to secure her future as a wealthy widow feels closer than ever. But her plans are violently interrupted. The carriage lurches as a wheel shatters on the treacherous mountain path. Before anyone can react, the entire vehicle veers off the road and plummets into the ravine below. When Sheila awakens, she's surrounded by splintered wood and biting cold. Disoriented, she sits up and tries to figure out where she is. Her gaze then falls upon her maid, Molly, lying motionless on the floor. A dark stain spreads across the snow, a grim testament to the crash's severity. The spy who was meant to watch her every move would not be getting up again. Sheila's new life had begun, but not at all in the way she had planned. A sharp pain in her arm brings Sheila back to the freezing reality of the crash. After a quick check, she confirms the coachman has also perished, leaving her completely alone. She coolly assesses the situation. On the bright side, the spies meant to watch her were no longer a burden. But the downside was severe. She was stranded in a desolate ravine with an injured leg, and calling for help could trigger a snowslide. For a fleeting moment, she wonders if she should just sit and wait to die. However, her fierce will to live quickly stamps out that thought, declaring she will not give up. Her pragmatic gaze lands on the coachman's thick, fur-lined coat. With cold logic, she reasons that clothes are useless to the dead. This will be his final act of loyalty. She pulls the heavy garment from him, determined to survive, no matter the cost. Wrapped in the heavy coat, Sheila fought a losing battle against the brutal cold. Sleep was a tempting enemy, and she desperately repeated to herself that she must live, that she couldn't give in. Just as her vision began to blur and fade, a figure appeared through the snow, descending into the ravine. Barely conscious, she could only wonder if an angel had come for her. A man landed silently nearby. He approached and called out, his voice sharp and clear, telling her to wake up. Overwhelmed with relief, Sheila's last thought was that she was finally saved. She surrendered to the darkness as the stranger effortlessly lifted her into his arms. This was no angel, but Ulysses Alcott, the Duke's infamous second son. Her mysterious savior asks if she's awake, and she knows her ordeal is far from over. Sheila awakens to the crackling of a fire, feeling an unfamiliar warmth despite the surrounding snow. She's being held by a handsome stranger, and for a delirious moment, she believes she must have died and gone to heaven. The man's calm voice cuts through her confusion, stating that she's not dead, simply unconscious from the cold. His words shatter her illusion, and she realizes with a jolt of embarrassment that the intimate, dreamlike encounter was nothing more than a fever-induced fantasy. Composing herself, she offers her thanks for the rescue. He wastes no time, asking her name and where she's from. Playing her part, Sheila introduces herself as Clara Priestley from the South. Her rescuer connects the dots instantly, asking if she's the one set to marry Duke Alcott. She affirms his guess, her own question about his identity now hanging in the tense, cold air. The handsome rescuer reveals his identity. He is Ulysses Alcott, the Duke's second son. The name sends a jolt of pure dread through Sheila. A memory of the real Clara Priestley's warning flashes in her mind. Clara had been crystal clear. Ulysses was the most dangerous of the Alcott children, a man with a sharp mind who enjoys toying with people. She was ordered to avoid him at all costs. Sheila's blood runs cold. The man who just saved her is the one she was told would make her wish she was never born. A terrifying thought takes root. Was this a coincidence? Or did Ulysses himself arrange the carriage crash that nearly ended her life? His calm voice breaks her spiral of fear. Snapping back to the present, Sheila shoves her terror aside and forces a pleasant expression onto her face. Looking directly at the most dangerous man in the estate, she cheerfully confirms that he is Ulysses Alcott, masking her inner turmoil completely. Putting on a brave face, Sheila tells Ulysses how lucky she is to have met him, believing he can help her safely reach the city to marry Duke Alcott. Ulysses questions her directly, asking if she truly wants to marry his father. Committed to her role, Sheila insists that marrying the Duke is her sole purpose in life. But Ulysses sees right through the performance. He expresses his doubt before lifting her chin, forcing her to meet his gaze. With a chilling certainty, he calls her an imposter. Sheila's mind races in panic. Her cover is blown, but she has no idea what gave her away. Ulysses cuts through her confusion, telling her to drop the act. He makes it clear that he will never believe a word she says. Terrified, Sheila weakly asks what he plans to do with her. In response, he shoves her back, sending her tumbling into the cold snow. He coldly orders her to be gone by morning and to never return. Lying in the cold snow, Sheila looks up at the man who holds her fate in his hands, asking if he isn't going to end her life. Ulysses glances back with a chilling smirk, casually offering to grant that wish if she really wants it. He then turns his back, fully intending to abandon her in the unforgiving wilderness. As his figure retreats into the snowy darkness, a harsh reality sets in for Sheila. Her mission is a bust, and leaving now means a lonely, frozen demise. But survival is her strongest instinct. In a sudden burst of defiance, she scrambles to her feet and lunges forward, grabbing the edge of his cloak and forcing him to stop. He turns, a flicker of surprise crossing his cold features. Looking him straight in the eye, Sheila makes a bold declaration. She is not leaving. From this moment on, she will stay and live with him. A few days before the fateful carriage crash, inside the grand Alcott estate, Ulysses jolts awake. He's drenched in a cold sweat, his heart pounding in his chest. Looking down at his hands, he's deeply confused. He distinctly remembers dying from a debilitating illness in his past, yet here he is, perfectly healthy. The man delivers a message directly from the Duke. A Miss Clara is on her way from Lion City, and Ulysses has been tasked with arranging her welcoming banquet. The name hits him like a physical blow. He hasn't cheated death. He has been reborn. He is 20 years old again, and the architect of his future ruin is about to walk through the front door. In his previous life, Ulysses Alcott played a long and difficult game. His mother, the Duke's second wife, was from a fallen noble house called Elkins. Her life was cut short right after giving birth to him, leaving the young boy without a protector. His father, Duke Alcott, quickly found a new wife and completely forgot about his son, forcing Ulysses to grow up like a shadow in the grand estate. But this neglect didn't break him. It sharpened him. Blessed with a keen mind and endless patience, Ulysses educated himself. He mastered sword fighting and martial arts, quietly carving out a place of power for himself in the city. He joined the secret war for succession, playing the deadly political game against his siblings, each one a rival for their father's throne. Before his untimely end, everything had been going exactly according to his plan. He was winning. In his past life, Ulysses remembers how his meticulously laid plans were completely shattered by one person, Clara Priestley. She was the wild card that destroyed his entire chessboard. When she first married into the family, she desperately tried to escape. But after failing time and again, something inside her shifted. Clara accepted her new reality and chose to join the ruthless family power struggle instead. With cunning and charm, she successfully influenced the old Duke, effectively becoming the city's hidden ruler. Ulysses saw her as just another rival for the family's power, and he eventually put a decisive end to her ambitions. But before her downfall, Clara landed a final, devastating blow. She afflicted him with a terrible, slow-acting poison. This mysterious illness plagued him for years, ultimately ending his life at the young age of 40. And now, the woman who orchestrated his ruin was coming back. With the painful memories of his past life fresh in his mind, Ulysses makes a silent, cold vow. This time, he will never let the woman known as Clara Priestley set foot in the city alive. But Sheila refuses to be dismissed. She grabs onto his cloak, defiantly declaring that she isn't leaving and wants to stay and live with him. Ulysses scoffs at the absurd suggestion. Thinking fast, Sheila launches into a desperate performance, claiming she's admired him from afar and only agreed to this marriage for a chance to be near him. Internally, she knows this flimsy honey trap is her only hope. Unimpressed, Ulysses clicks his tongue, asking if she's still not willing to admit she's an imposter. Sheila doubles down, demanding proof. He thinks to himself that she's a real handful, almost regretting not leaving her in the snow. With a smirk, he leans in, sarcastically asking if she really likes him that much. Ulysses calmly plays his trump card, asking if she'd still want to stay knowing he had someone prepare the snow cave in advance. Sheila freezes. So, it was him who saved her. Confused, she questions why he would rescue her only to treat her with such hostility. Was it because he couldn't stand to see her perish in the snow? Internally, Ulysses admits the truth. This woman isn't the Clara from his memories, and because of that, he couldn't bring himself to just kill her. He silently scolds himself. That one moment of compassion has brought him nothing but trouble. Deciding to push her, he smirks. Since she's so confident in her act, he presumes she's also prepared to offer him anything he wants. He leans in, lifting her chin with his fingers. With a dangerous glint in his eyes, he asks why he shouldn't start enjoying what she's offering right now. His words are a test, a threat designed to see just how far she's willing to go. Ulysses figured a small scare would be enough to make her back down. As he leaned in, Sheila froze. She had struggled to get by in the slums and had never been this close to a man before, let alone one with such a bad reputation. Yet, she couldn't deny he was handsome. Stealing her nerves, Sheila knew she had to survive here, no matter the cost. She began her performance, claiming she'd long admired him and would welcome his advances. However, she added a clever condition. If she arrived at the Alcott estate as anything less than a maiden, Duke Alcott would surely find out, which would cause serious trouble for Ulysses. But Ulysses wasn't fazed in the slightest. He simply replied that he wasn't afraid of trouble. Internally, he was amused by her act, wondering just how long she could keep playing tough. His cold response sent a chill down Sheila's spine. She couldn't believe it. She had given him a perfect way out, yet this man was still willing to make a move on his own father's future wife. Ulysses's cold response left Sheila stunned. Seeing her bluff had failed, he turned to abandon her in the snow. In a moment of panic, she lunged forward and grabbed his cloak, desperately telling him to wait. He glanced back, a cynical smirk playing on his lips as he asked if she was already regretting her bold proposition. Thinking fast, Sheila claimed it was simply too cold outside and suggested they find a warmer place to continue their discussion. Internally, Ulysses was annoyed. He'd known from her calloused hands that she wasn't the real Clara. His initial plan was to save the commoner and send her away, but her stubborn insistence on walking into the viper's nest had ruined that. Deciding he couldn't be bothered anymore, he told her not to follow him and started to leave. Unfazed, Sheila shouted back that she wasn't following him. They were simply both headed toward Blizzard City, so they might as well walk together. Ulysses turned and walked away, completely done with her games. Watching his back grow smaller, Sheila knew if he abandoned her in the snow, she was finished. In a last-ditch effort, she begged him not to leave and to take her to Blizzard City. When he ignored her, she threw away her pride and lunged, wrapping her arms tightly around his leg. Thoroughly annoyed, Ulysses demanded she let go. But Sheila refused, dramatically declaring that he was her only lifeline and she wouldn't release her grip even if it cost her everything. Her shameless persistence was something else entirely. Fed up with the girl who clung to him like gum on a shoe, Ulysses finally gave in. He agreed to take her back if she would just let go. But Sheila wasn't done yet. Looking up from the snow, she weakly told him she had no strength left to walk. Completely defeated, Ulysses grabbed her by the collar and began dragging her toward the city. With a firm grip on her collar, Ulysses drags Sheila through the biting snow. He breaks the silence, testing her to make sure she knows what to say once they arrive. Sheila confirms she has the cover story down perfectly. Her carriage had an accident, and she was fortunate to be rescued by Lord Ulysses, who was simply passing by. Internally, Ulysses gives a slight, grudging approval. She's smart, he'll give her that. He decides to let her play her part as the fake bride for now. If she ever becomes a threat to his plans, he reasons it won't be difficult to get rid of her later. They soon arrive at the imposing gates of the Alcott estate. Ulysses coolly orders a guard to inform his father that Miss Clara Priestley is here. Moments later, The grand doors swing open, spilling light into the snowy darkness. A formal voice booms, welcoming her as she finally steps into the lion's den. As Sheila stepped into the grand hall, she was met with the judging eyes of the Alcott children. The eldest daughter, Eunice, whispered a rude comment about Sheila's ragged appearance, questioning why a wealthy lady looked so disheveled. Her brother, Eugene, quickly scolded her for her lack of manners. At the head of the table sat their father, Duke Ralph Alcott. The rumors were true. He was an old, lecherous man. Ulysses formally addressed the Duke, and Sheila gathered her courage. With a deep curtsy, she introduced herself as Clara Priestley, paying her respects. The Duke's face flushed with a predatory eagerness. He called out her name and immediately demanded she come sit beside him, patting the seat with a familiar and unwelcome gesture. His gaze was unsettling, and his inappropriate advances made it clear that surviving this family would be even harder than she imagined. Across the room, his children watch with varied expressions. The eldest son, Eugene, feels a pang of pity for this young woman, thinking she must feel so helpless. His sister Eunice, however, is enjoying the show. She scoffs, openly wondering if Sheila will end up crying from fear, just like their last stepmother. Ulysses observes his sister's cruel smirk. He knows she's geared up for some drama, but he thinks she's bound to be disappointed. This fake Clara isn't the weakling Eunice expects. When he sees Sheila hesitate, Ulysses coolly tells her to stop spacing out and hurry up. Snapping out of it, Sheila composes herself instantly. She walks forward with a practiced, radiant smile and gives a perfect curtsy. With a sweet voice, she declares it an honor to be invited, completely hiding the terror she must be feeling. She's playing her part flawlessly. With a flawless curtsy, Sheila apologizes for her brief pause, claiming the palace's grandeur had simply left her stunned. Her excuse pleases the old Duke, who eagerly tells her to hurry over. But as he leans in for an unwelcome advance, Sheila masterfully dodges, causing him to stumble. The friendly atmosphere vanishes instantly. Eunice smirks, convinced that the imposter's act is already crumbling on day one. The Duke's expression turns cold. He slowly picks up a small fruit knife, his voice laced with menace as he asks if she was just disgusted by him. Even Ulysses watches, thinking he might have overestimated her ability to survive. But Sheila isn't cornered. She offers a sweet, apologetic smile and delivers a brilliant excuse. She explains she only pulled away because she got her period. With perfect composure, she states it's known to be bad luck for a man, and she was only thinking of his well-being. Sheila's excuse was a calculated risk, betting that the Duke's superstitious beliefs would delay their wedding. But the old man's face showed nothing but suspicion. She quickly adopted an innocent look, promising to serve him well once her monthly trouble had passed. This did little to persuade him. He grabbed her face, his voice dangerously low as he demanded to know if she was lying to him. Panicked, Sheila's eyes darted to Ulysses, who only smirked, clearly enjoying the show. Realizing she was utterly alone, her fear turned into cold defiance. She met the Duke's glare and boldly told him that if he truly wanted proof, she would give it to him. The room fell silent as she challenged him to take a look for himself, a move so audacious that his other children were left completely speechless, certain she had lost her mind. Ulysses can't help but crack a smile, impressed by her sheer nerve. The Duke, however, is completely grossed out. He waves her away, sputtering that he believes her and wants that unlucky stuff far away from him. With the Duke's advances thwarted, Sheila calmly excuses herself. As she walks away, she reveals her brilliant trick. She had used extra cloth from a previous leg injury to create the convincing evidence that just saved her skin. Having cleared that dangerous hurdle, Sheila decides she might as well enjoy the fancy meal. She sits down and starts eating, her composure astonishing everyone in the room. Ulysses watches, noting her resilience after such a tense showdown. The Duke, already distracted by another woman, calls out to his children. He commands them to come and toast their future stepmother, insisting they show proper manners. With a resigned, "Yes, father," Eugene and the others reluctantly obey, approaching their new and unpredictable family member. With the Duke's advances thwarted, Sheila must now face his children. The eldest daughter, Eunice, is the first to approach. With a smile that doesn't quite reach her eyes, she introduces herself and offers a toast, saying she looks forward to getting along. Sheila returns the hollow gesture, recognizing the start of a new rivalry. Next is Eugene, the eldest son, who offers a much warmer welcome. He kindly tells Sheila to seek him out if she needs help adjusting. His gentle nature is a stark contrast to his siblings, and Sheila mentally marks him as a potential ally. Finally, Ulysses approaches with a smirk. He raises his glass, sarcastically congratulating her on winning their father's favor. Sheila thanks him, but he leans in closer, his voice low. He repeats his congratulations, but this time for successfully becoming everyone's new enemy. His sharp words leave Sheila stunned, a clear reminder that surviving this treacherous family will be her greatest challenge yet. Confused by Ulysses' cryptic warning, Sheila demands to know what he meant by her becoming a thorn in the side for everyone. He simply replies that he meant it literally, leaving her to stew in the vague threat. Before she can argue, Duke Alcott's suspicious gaze falls upon them. The old man notes his son and his bride-to-be arrived simultaneously, demanding an explanation. Thinking on her feet, Sheila weaves a convincing story. She explains that her carriage got stuck in a snowdrift on the way, and by pure chance, Ulysses was patrolling the area and came to her rescue. Ulysses plays along perfectly, calmly confirming that as his father's future wife, he couldn't possibly leave her to die. The lecherous Duke finds the whole tale amusing, laughing it off as a classic hero saves the beauty scenario. Satisfied with their story, he dismisses them, quickly turning his attention back to his feast. With the initial family introductions complete, Duke Alcott's lecherous nature surfaces once again. He makes a vile declaration to the entire table, proclaiming that he eats first and that if anyone else wants some, they can have his leftovers. The crude metaphor is lost on no one. He's talking about Sheila as if she's the main course. Internally, Sheila seethes with disgust. This man isn't just a creep. He's openly offering his new wife to his sons. While she's horrified, Ulysses remains perfectly calm, assuring his father that he knows the rules. The chilling normalcy of the situation makes Sheila wonder if the Duke's previous wives suffered the same fate. Just as she questions if the whole family is depraved, another son approaches her. He shyly introduces himself as Enoch, the third son. Unlike his monstrous relatives, Enoch appears timid and gentle. As they exchange a brief greeting, Sheila can't help but notice how different he seems, a small flicker of decency in a house full of predators. Sheila's gaze drifts across the dinner table. She notes that the eldest son, Eugene, appears remarkably polite, a stark contrast to his family's reputation. This brief observation only sharpens her thoughts on Ulysses. She furiously recalls the Duke's vile proposition from earlier, how he'd offered her up like a piece of meat, and how Ulysses was the only son included in the disgusting deal. Half an hour passes. Finally, the gluttonous Duke stands, announcing he's retiring for the evening before being led away by his attendants. The moment he's gone, Ulysses also prepares to leave, showing no desire for pleasantries. He glances at Sheila, asking if she's finished with her meal. Still disturbed by his casual reaction to his father's depravity, Sheila knows she needs answers. She quickly excuses herself, claiming she's full and must write a letter home to confirm her safe arrival. In reality, her only goal is to follow Ulysses and confront him. As Ulysses walks away into the night, Sheila rushes after him, calling his name. He completely ignores her, not even slowing his pace. Frustrated, she raises her voice, insisting she needs to talk to him. He finally stops and coldly asks why he should bother listening to her. Seeing no other option, Sheila grabs his arm, her expression shifting from desperate to something far more cunning. She tells him that she likes him so much, she's prepared to cling to him obsessively if he won't hear her out. Then comes the real threat. With a chilling smile, Sheila warns him that if the Duke were to discover them together, she would gladly face the consequences and ensure he did too. She is threatening to drag him down with her. Ulysses is stunned by her audacity. He thinks about the 100 ways he could make her disappear, but a new idea forms. He could use this unpredictable woman. He agrees to talk, but only if she lets go. Instantly, Sheila releases his arm, her intense act vanishing into a cheerful smile. With the conversation forced, Ulysses doesn't waste time. He tells Sheila she's seen the truth. His father is a distasteful old man who treats his wives and children horribly. He coldly admits that he and his siblings are just waiting for the Duke to pass away so the succession battle can truly begin. Ulysses explains the brutal power dynamic. The eldest son, Eugene, is too sickly and weak to be a real contender, but every other heir is a shark. Into this chaos, Sheila has been thrown as the new duchess, representing the priestly family's interests. Her arrival has created a common enemy, temporarily uniting the siblings against her. They are terrified she will use her influence over the Duke to seize power. Ulysses then lays out her bleak options. He asks what she thinks the heirs will do: try to win her over one by one, or team up to eliminate her as quickly as possible. The question hangs in the air, leaving Sheila to process the deadly game she's been forced to play. With the battle lines drawn, Sheila boldly asks Ulysses what his next move will be. Will he join his siblings to get rid of her, or will he form an alliance with her instead? Ulysses looks down on her, utterly unimpressed. He flatly rejects both ideas, stating he has no need to unite with his family, and he certainly won't be forming a partnership with a fake. To him, she has absolutely no value. As he turns to walk away, Sheila is left reeling. She now understands why Clara described him as such a terrible person. A chilling realization dawns on her. Just taking out the Duke won't be enough to survive in this treacherous family. She needs to pick an heir, make a solid alliance, and seize power together. Since Ulysses already holds her secret over her head, he's her only logical, albeit dangerous, choice. She calls out one last time, reminding him to think carefully. After all, this entire fake marriage was orchestrated by the real Lady Clara. As Ulysses walks away, Sheila makes her final pitch. She argues that to prevent being exposed, the real Clara will have to support her, which means Sheila can be a useful ally. Ulysses stops, a smug look on his face. He asks if she's talking about the maid who died in the crash, the spy Clara sent to monitor her. He lays out her new reality. Clara already knows her spy is dead and will immediately send another to interrogate her. He warns Sheila to come up with a good story, or her family back home will face Clara's wrath. But Sheila shocks him by casually stating that her father can handle a beating. This cold response leaves Ulysses baffled. Before he can question her further, he spots movement nearby. He quickly pulls Sheila into the shadows, silencing her. Across the courtyard, they see Duke Ralph cornering a terrified maid. The old man's disgusting intentions are clear as he makes unwanted advances, proving every dark rumor about him to be true. From the safety of the shadows, they watch the disgusting scene unfold. Duke Ralph has a terrified maid cornered, her pleas that she's already married falling on deaf ears. The old Duke simply laughs, threatening her husband's job if she doesn't cooperate. Sheila is absolutely repulsed. She feels a pang of pity for the girl but knows she's in no position to help, figuring Ulysses must be used to his father's behavior and won't bother to intervene. But then he moves. With a swift, precise flick of his wrist, Ulysses sends a small, sharp object flying. It strikes the Duke's hand, causing him to yelp in shock. Spooked and his mood ruined, the Duke dismisses the maid, telling her to consider herself lucky. As the grateful girl scurries away, Sheila looks at Ulysses in disbelief. She never expected him to save the maid. It seems he still has a bit of a conscience. Her thoughts are cut short, however, as she realizes Ulysses still hasn't let her go. Sheila stood in stunned silence as the maid scurried away to safety. She couldn't believe Ulysses had actually intervened. Maybe he wasn't a complete monster after all. Her thoughts were cut short when she realized he was still holding her arm, his grip firm. As they walked, she decided to press her luck, calling him out on his unpredictable moods. Visibly annoyed, Ulysses warned her to stop following him. Sheila made one last desperate offer. If he agreed to cooperate, she would leave him alone for good. His answer was a blunt impossible. In an instant, his cold indifference turned into something far more dangerous. He spun around, and the next thing Sheila knew, the cold steel of his sword was pressed against her neck. He warned her that if she said another word, he would make sure she never spoke again. Then, just as quickly, he let her go and vanished into the darkness. Shaken, Sheila decided she was too exhausted for this. But as she turned to leave, a timid voice called out, stopping her in her tracks. It was the gentle third son, Enoch. Startled, Sheila turned to find the Duke's timid third son, Enoch, peering from a doorway. He quickly apologized for frightening her. Brushing off her recent encounter with Ulysses, Sheila calmly asked if he needed something. Enoch's expression was urgent. He warned her that his father had just returned to the banquet in a drunken rage and was searching for her everywhere. He advised her to hurry, suggesting things could get bad if she was late. Sheila's mind raced. The old lecher was probably looking for someone to take his earlier frustration out on, and she was the perfect target. Pulled from her dark thoughts by Enoch's concerned voice, She apologized for being distracted and agreed to go. They arrived at the banquet hall just as the Duke was bellowing for his new wife. Enoch calmly announced her arrival, and the old man turned. A nasty grin spread across his flushed face as he declared he had been looking all over for her. Putting on a brave face, Sheila sweetly asked the Duke if he needed her for something. The old man, clearly intoxicated, grabbed her arm and slurred that his beautiful new wife needed to help him back to his room. Sheila's blood ran cold. She desperately scanned the room, but none of the Duke's children lifted a finger to help her. Enoch looked worried, but Eunice simply watched with a smirk. Realizing she was on her own, Sheila knew she had to play along. Forcing a smile, she gently told the Duke he'd had too much and offered to help him rest. He grunted in agreement. As she led the stumbling man away, Eunice commented on how their new stepmother was keeping her cool. Eugene, however, wasn't so sure, wondering if her composure was a good thing or a very bad one. The two finally reached the Duke's private chambers, where he immediately collapsed onto the bed. Inside the Duke's chambers, the old man collapsed onto the bed, but he wasn't finished yet. He grabbed Sheila's hand, his flushed face uncomfortably close as he commented on her smooth skin. With her mind racing, Sheila put on a sweet smile and suggested they have one last drink to liven things up. The Duke eagerly agreed. As Sheila prepared the drink, her expression turned to ice. She wished she could just end him right there, but poisoning him on their first night would be far too suspicious. Instead, she mixed a powerful sleeping draught into his glass. Returning to his side, she presented it. The Duke happily downed the entire glass. He started to speak, his intentions clear, but his words slurred and trailed off into silence. The glass dropped from his hand, and he passed out completely. Standing over his unconscious body, Sheila felt a wave of relief. She calmly left the room, only to find a maid waiting outside. Realizing she was a spy, Sheila coolly stated the Duke was asleep and ordered the woman to guard the door. With the Duke unconscious, Sheila calmly faced the stunned maid. The servant couldn't believe the notoriously difficult man had fallen asleep. Playing the part of a tired bride, Sheila asked where her room was and dismissed the maid, ordering her to stand guard. Finally, alone in the quiet, moonlit hall, her thoughts turned to survival. How could she possibly form an alliance with someone as dangerous as Ulysses? And when would the other Alcott children make their first move against her? Suddenly, her heart hammered in her chest. A disorienting heat spread through her body, and she crumpled to the floor. This feeling was horribly familiar. She'd seen women in the slums who were given this kind of drug, completely losing their sense of self in public. Sheila knew she wouldn't be able to resist its effects. A wave of panic rose as she realized she needed an antidote and had to choose someone to use. In her desperation, only one person came to mind. With a strange heat spreading through her body, Sheila's mind raced. She knew her best choice for an ally was Ulysses. He was her only hope. Fighting to stay on her feet, she stumbled down the grand hallway, trying to remember the direction of his room. Suddenly, she collided with someone. The Duke's gentle third son, Enoch, caught her before she could fall, his expression full of concern. He asked if she was all right, thinking she was simply drunk. The drug, however, was making her vulnerable. His touch felt strangely intense, and she knew she had to get away. Sheila insisted she was fine, but Enoch wouldn't let go, offering to take her to a doctor. Her strength faded fast, and panic set in. Just then, a cold voice echoed from the end of the hall. It was Ulysses, watching them with an unreadable expression. He simply asked what they were doing up so late. Using the momentary distraction, Sheila yanked her arm free from Enoch's grasp and ran, leaving the kind-hearted boy calling after her in confusion. Ulysses's cold voice cuts through the hall, ordering Enoch to stop. He reminds his younger brother that Lady Clara is now their father's wife, and it's not his place to take care of her. A flustered Enoch apologizes, explaining he was just worried she was drunk, but he quickly backs down and leaves. Later, while trying to relax in his bath, Ulysses finds his mind consumed with thoughts of the imposter. He regrets not getting rid of her when he had the chance in the snow. Now that she's inside the estate walls, making a move against her is far more difficult and risky. As he splashes water on his face, trying to clear his head, the bathroom door suddenly bursts open. He looks up, completely stunned, to see Sheila standing there. She's breathing heavily, her face flushed from the drug coursing through her. With what little strength she has left, she looks him in the eyes and begs for his help, admitting she's been poisoned. Sheila stumbles forward, crashing directly into the Duke's second son. She lands right on Ulysses, who had been trying to relax in his private bath. Completely caught off guard, he demands to know what she's doing. But Sheila isn't in her right mind. The drug coursing through her system has made her delirious and weak. Instead of answering, she dazedly grabs his robe, muttering for him to take it off. Her strength finally gives out, and she collapses against his chest, pleading for help and admitting how terrible she feels. Holding her, Ulysses's mind races. He quickly understands she was drugged by someone in the mansion, intending to use Clara for their own purposes. If one of his rivals controls her, he'll have a new enemy to deal with. With cold calculation, he looks down at the woman in his arms. He tells her that this was her choice, and she better not regret it when her mind is clear again. With the drug clouding her mind, Sheila closes the distance between them. Confused by his inaction, she boldly asks if there's a problem with him, directly questioning his manhood. This finally gets a response. A sly smirk spreads across Ulysses's face as he announces he'll help her detox right now. Believing this is her only path to survival, Sheila resigns herself to the inevitable and closes her eyes. However, Ulysses's method is far from what she imagined. He effortlessly lifts her up and, without a second thought, plunges her into the icy bath water. The shock is instant. Soaked and shivering, she sputters, demanding to know what he's doing. He coolly explains that a bath in ice water is the perfect way to calm her down. His brand of help is as cold and calculating as he is. The shock of the ice water does little to calm Sheila's drug-addled mind. She thrashes in the tub, demanding Ulysses let her go. He holds her firmly in place, coldly informing her the drug hasn't worn off and she needs to stay put. Just a minute later, all the fight has left her body. Looking at her dazed expression, Ulysses reflects that for someone so capable, she now seems like a helpless kitten. Once he pulls her from the water, she shivers, complaining of feeling both intensely hot and cold. The poison is still racking her body. Ulysses tells her to endure it, but she can barely hear him. In her delirium, Sheila pleads with him to hold her, admitting how terrible she feels. Her raw vulnerability catches him off guard. He realizes sending her back to her room alone is too dangerous. With a sigh, he lifts the frail woman and carries her to a nearby bed. He notes that her fever seems to have broken. She should be fine when she finally wakes up. As Sheila lies passed out on the bed, Ulysses's sharp eyes catch sight of an injury on her leg. He clicks his tongue in annoyance, muttering about how messy she is. Still, he retrieves a first aid kit and sits beside her. This woman, he thinks, is proving to be a lot of trouble. As he begins cleaning the gash, Sheila flinches and groans in her sleep. He coldly tells her not to move, but her unconscious movements aren't from the physical pain. She starts to thrash, her voice small and terrified as she pleads for someone not to hit her. Clutching her dress, she curls into a ball, lost in a nightmare. She begs her father to stop, promising she'll do anything he wants. For the first time, Ulysses stops what he's doing. He looks down at the woman, getting a glimpse into a past that is far more brutal than he ever imagined. Ulysses pauses, the pieces of Sheila's past clicking into place. He hadn't expected that they shared the burden of a terrible father. As she thrashes in her sleep, he tries to soothe her, assuring her that her father isn't here. But Sheila is lost in a nightmare, reliving the terror of being a small child. She whimpers that he will always find her, even if she hides in the stables. The memory of a looming, menacing figure is so real, she can't escape it. Looking down at her, Ulysses feels an unfamiliar urge to protect. He leans in close, promising her unconscious mind that this time, he won't let her be found. He tells her to sleep peacefully. In her delirium, Sheila seems to understand. She clutches a shirt, her voice barely a whisper as she begs him not to go. Her raw desperation catches him completely off guard, freezing him in place. For the first time, she's not a pawn or a rival, but a terrified woman seeking safety. Ulysses tells her to let go, but in her delirium, Sheila refuses, begging him not to leave. Her desperate pleas soon change, and she begins calling for her mother, asking not to be left behind. The word triggers a memory for Ulysses, a painful image of himself as a young boy, abandoned in the rain and calling for his mother. Seeing a piece of his own past in her, he lets out a quiet sigh. It looks like he won't be getting any sleep tonight. The next morning, Sheila awakens with a big yawn, feeling surprisingly refreshed. That feeling of peace shatters when she turns her head and sees Ulysses sleeping in the bed next to her. Hazy, feverish memories from the night before flood her mind, revealing she acted strangely, trying to provoke him and get some kind of reaction. She even questioned his manhood brazenly when he remained completely stoic. The confusing flashback leaves her frozen in shock and embarrassment. As she processes the shock, she notices a fresh bandage on her leg. Ulysses tended to her wound. This simple act of care clashes with the monstrous image Clara had painted. She starts to wonder if Clara's warnings were just rumors. For the first time, she feels a genuine curiosity about the man next to her. Just then, his eyes open, and he asks if she's sober yet. Trying to regain control, Sheila leans in, claiming she is. But Ulysses isn't fooled. He tells her to stop pretending, making it clear he knows she's only looking for an ally, before suddenly grabbing her, pulling her close, and laying out his terms. If she can survive until the official wedding, he might consider cooperating with her. The challenge has been issued. To seal their tense new agreement, Sheila playfully asks if he's serious, holding out her pinky for a promise. Ulysses is not in the mood for games. He tells her to hurry up and leave his room before she's discovered. With an annoyed sigh, he gets up and departs, leaving her alone. Later, while taking a walk in the snowy pre-dawn garden, she's surprised by Enoch, the gentle third son. He questions why she's awake before sunrise. Sheila gives a simple excuse about not being able to sleep, but her mind is on high alert. After being poisoned, everyone in this house is a suspect. Enoch explains that he walks his dog, Gray, every morning. His story sounds innocent enough, and Sheila compliments the cute animal to keep up appearances. She thinks his answer is flawless, perhaps too flawless. Just as the conversation feels normal, Enoch's expression turns serious. He tells her there is something important he needs to remind her of, his sudden change in tone catching her completely off guard. Enoch's important reminder is a pointed warning. He gestures to a nearby room, explaining it belongs to his second brother, Ulysses. He advises Sheila to avoid the area during her walks, claiming Ulysses gets incredibly angry if woken up. Sheila questions this, asking if his brother has a bad temper. Enoch quickly backtracks, insisting he only wants to help her avoid unnecessary conflict. After he walks away, Sheila sees the move for what it is, a blatant attempt to turn her against Ulysses. The Alcott sibling schemes are already in full motion. On her way back, a maid named Irene confronts her, demanding to know where she was last night. Sheila lies smoothly, stating she was in the Duke's room caring for him. But Irene doesn't buy it. She reveals she checked the Duke's room in the middle of the night, and Sheila was nowhere to be found. Caught in her lie, Sheila's demure facade drops. She glares at the maid, wondering who sent this new spy, and icily asks if she is questioning her words. Irene the maid continues her interrogation, claiming she only wants to know Sheila's whereabouts for her own safety. Unimpressed, Sheila challenges her, asking what she'll do if she refuses to answer. The maid's professional mask slips, hinting at consequences, which pushes Sheila to the edge. She can't believe the nerve of the servant. Just as the confrontation is about to escalate, they are interrupted. The eldest son, Eugene, appears in his wheelchair, accompanied by his sister, Eunice. He immediately comes to Sheila's defense, sharply reprimanding the maid. He reminds Irene that Sheila is an honored guest and the future mistress of the estate, so she has no right to speak to her that way. Caught off guard, Irene quickly changes her tune, claiming she was just worried. But Eugene shuts her down, pointing out that Sheila is standing right there, completely unharmed. The maid apologizes and retreats. Though he stopped the questioning, Sheila knows the damage is done. Irene now has proof she was out all night, and that information is a dangerous weapon in the wrong hands. With the maid cornered, Eugene smoothly provides an alibi. He announces that he temporarily invited Sheila out the previous night to discuss some matters. He coolly explains that this must have been when Irene checked the Duke's room, adding that there's no need to make a fuss. His authority is clear, and Irene immediately deflates. She offers Sheila a rushed apology for her rashness. Accepting the apology with a cold stare, Sheila warns her that she hopes there won't be a next time. After the maid scurries away, Sheila is left to process what just happened. She can't believe Eugene not only defended her, but outright lied to cover for her. They have no relationship, so his actions are suspicious. Why would the eldest son help the new stepmother he barely knows? Pushing her confusion aside, she approaches his wheelchair and quietly thanks him for his help. He simply replies that she is welcome, his expression unreadable. Alone, she tries to piece together who drugged her. She mentally lists the suspects: Enoch, the timid brother who spoke ill of Ulysses; Eugene, whose kindness feels suspicious; and Eunice, who clearly wants her to fail. Ironically, Ulysses seems the least likely culprit. His approach is direct and brutal, not subtle like poison. A sudden knock at the door shatters her thoughts. When she asks who is there, a chilling voice replies from the other side, identifying himself as her future husband. Sheila is horrified. The lecherous Duke Alcott is outside her room, and she has no idea how he got past the lock. Duke Alcott stands in her room, having somehow bypassed the lock. Trying to remain composed, Sheila asks if something urgent has brought him over so early. The Duke puts on a kind face, explaining that a maid told him how she had looked after him all night. He praises her hard work and presents her with a stunning jewel necklace as a reward. Sheila accepts the gift, but her relief is short-lived. The Duke's friendly mask drops, and he suggests that the best way to thank him would be more personal. Before she can react, he lunges forward and grabs her. Panicked, Sheila begs him to wait, but he coldly asks if she's unwilling to please her husband. Thinking fast, she plays her final card: his superstition. She quickly claims that it's a specific time for a woman, and touching her now would bring him terrible misfortune. The Duke pauses for a second, considering her words. But then, a lecherous grin spreads across his face as he declares that he doesn't care about bad luck. Sheila is trapped. With her last defense shattered, Sheila is completely at the Duke's mercy. He overpowers her easily, his cruel words making it clear that her resistance is futile. Pushed to the absolute limit, she decides that if this is how it ends, she'll take him down with her and find a way to escape. Suddenly, a calm voice interrupts the horrifying scene. It's Ulysses, who has walked in to speak with his father. A sliver of hope appears for Sheila. Surely the Duke won't continue in front of his own son. But the Duke is furious at the interruption, and to Sheila's dismay, Ulysses begins discussing a dry report on military expenses. For a moment, it seems Ulysses will do nothing. But then, he strategically mentions that the priestly family sent a large sum of money for the wedding. The Duke's greed instantly takes over. He releases Sheila, his full attention now on Ulysses, demanding to know how much money they sent. With a simple business tactic, Ulysses had saved her. The Duke's greed wins out over his desires. Convinced he can deal with Sheila later, he leaves to discuss the wedding funds, telling her to rest well. Once he's gone, Sheila wastes no time confronting her rescuer. She asks Ulysses directly if he brought up the money on purpose to get his father off her back. Unfazed, Ulysses claims it was a lucky coincidence. He explains that his brother, Eugene, had asked for help with the family finances and Sheila shouldn't count on being saved again. Not buying it, she sarcastically asks if Eugene is the one she should thank. Ulysses brushes her off, but then his tone changes. He gives her a cold reminder. Gratitude is useless here. Her only focus should be on leaving. In a stunning turn, he tells her that if she truly wants to run, he will give her one final opportunity to escape the hellish estate for good. With Ulysses's offer to escape hanging in the air, Sheila turns the tables. She boldly asks if he's always this lenient with women, giving out second chances. His expression hardens, and he coldly revokes the offer entirely. But Sheila isn't fazed. She wasn't asking for an escape route. She was asking for a partnership. With unwavering confidence, she promises to become a qualified ally. Ulysses brushes off her pledge, directing her attention to a more immediate problem: a new maid sent by Clara Priestley. A stern-faced woman named Hannah enters, immediately trying to establish dominance. She scolds Sheila, telling the lowborn imposter to remember her place and not speak Clara's name. Sheila simply smiles, her eyes glinting. She asks who the last person was to speak to her with such disrespect. Before Hannah can react, Sheila provides the chilling answer herself. It was Molly, who met a tragic end out in the snow. Hannah's face twists in shock as she directly accuses Sheila of causing Molly's demise. Trying to regain the upper hand, she warns the imposter that Lady Clara will consider any harm to her a betrayal and will not let it slide. But Sheila is completely unfazed. She calmly informs Hannah that her fate rests entirely in her own hands. Picking up a dazzling, expensive necklace, Sheila makes a counteroffer. She doesn't know what Clara promised for Hannah's loyalty, but if the maid chooses to serve her instead, the priceless jewel is hers. Though Hannah tries to declare her unwavering loyalty to Clara, Sheila simply tosses the necklace to her as a greeting gift. She presents a clear choice: work with her for even greater rewards, or side with Clara. Regardless, Sheila explains coolly, she'll be sending her own reports to the real Priestley, making Hannah's role as a spy utterly pointless. Seeing no other option, the new maid clutches the necklace and bows her head in submission. The next morning, Sheila joins the family for a lavish breakfast, silently marveling at the noble's incredible wealth. For a moment, she allows herself to enjoy the peace of a truly wonderful morning. But the calm is broken when Ulysses calls out her name. He subtly points to the corner of his own mouth, a silent message that she has a bit of cream on her face. Sheila meets his gaze, wondering if he's been watching her this whole time. Instead of showing embarrassment, she smiles gracefully and thanks him for the reminder. Her complete lack of shame catches Ulysses off guard. He's stunned by her audacity, thinking she must be crazy. The other siblings watch the exchange with keen interest. Eunice notes that it's rare to see Ulysses at a loss for words, while Eugene agrees that their new stepmother is proving to be quite interesting. Enoch naively comments that Lady Clara and his second brother seem to have an exceptionally good relationship. Hearing this, Ulysses' expression darkens, a silent scowl directed at his oblivious younger brother. With a serene smile, Sheila internally rejects Enoch's innocent observation. She and Ulysses were not close in the slightest. Deciding the meal is over, she stands and announces she must prepare for a wedding dress fitting, leaving the siblings at the table. Ulysses watches her go, completely baffled. The woman is set to marry his fearsome father in 2 days, a fate that drove others to ruin, yet she eats with a hearty appetite. He can't decide if she's completely unaware of the danger, or just has unshakable nerves of steel. As Sheila walks away, she fumes over Ulysses' annoying attitude. But before she can get far, Enoch hurries to catch up. He explains his tragic background. His mother was a commoner who died at his birth, making him the least favored child who lives in constant fear. Noticing a hint of compassion in Sheila's eyes, Enoch seizes the moment. He grabs her hand, desperately pleading for just a little bit of care and affection once she officially becomes his new stepmother. Enoch's plea for affection hangs in the air. Playing her part, Sheila offers a warm smile and assures him that once she becomes the new duchess, she intends to take care of every child in the estate. Her kind words are exactly what the lonely young man needed to hear, and he declares his belief in her goodness. Sensing the conversation is over, Sheila tries to excuse herself for the dress fitting. But Enoch stops her, insisting there's one last, very important thing he must tell her. He pulls her away to a more private corner of the hallway. Slightly uncomfortable, Sheila asks him to release her hand, worried about how it might look. Enoch quickly apologizes, blaming his anxiety. Leaning in close, Enoch delivers a shocking revelation. He tells Sheila that on the day of the banquet, he personally witnessed a maid secretly put something into her wine glass. That maid, he whispers, is loyal to Eugene, the polite eldest son. The news stops Sheila cold. Could Eugene's kindness just be an elaborate act? Her mind races with possibilities. Perhaps Eugene is a master manipulator, or maybe Enoch is the one lying to turn her against his brother. Unable to trust anyone in this nest of vipers, Sheila maintains her composure. She thanks Enoch for the warning, promising to be on guard. Internally, she resolves to play along for now, watching both brothers carefully to see who exposes themselves first. Later, while being fitted for her wedding dress, one of the maids quietly admires her new lady's strength. Noticing Sheila's pale expression, the maid asks if something is troubling her. During the dress fitting, the maid notices Sheila's troubled expression and kindly offers to help share her burden. Seeing an opportunity, Sheila decides to test the maid's loyalty. She leans in close, entrusting her with a secret mission: to keep a close eye on the eldest son, Eugene, and report any unusual behavior directly to her. The maid readily accepts. Just as the plan is set, a new threat emerges. Duke Alcott, already drinking, wanders down the hall and becomes irritated that the door to Sheila's room is closed. When a servant explains that his fiancée is inside, an unsettling smile spreads across the Duke's face. He declares that he must go in and help her personally. His voice suddenly rings out from behind the door, making Sheila freeze in terror. Realizing she's trapped with no one to save her, she panics and orders her maid to block the door while she escapes through the window. But it's too late. The door is forced open with overwhelming strength, cutting off her only exit and leaving her cornered by the lecherous Duke. As the Duke burst in, Sheila made a desperate run for it. Her maid was knocked to the ground in the chaos, left to face the Duke's anger alone. He demanded to know where Clara had gone, but the terrified woman insisted she didn't know. The Duke simply laughed, finding his fiancée's escape amusing. He announced that if she wanted to play hide-and-seek, he would happily find her. His chilling voice echoed through the mansion as he began his hunt. Sheila, clad in her wedding dress, frantically searched for a hiding spot. She ducked into a dark, dusty study, hoping the abandoned room would offer some safety. But it was no use. The Duke's figure appeared in the doorway, a triumphant grin on his face. Just as her last bit of hope vanished, an arm wrapped around her from behind. A hand swiftly covered her mouth, stifling her cry and pulling her back into the darkness. She wasn't alone. Pulled back into the shadows, a hand covers Sheila's mouth. A quiet voice tells her not to be afraid. Her rescuer is none other than Ulysses. Catching her breath, Sheila questions why he's in this abandoned study. He claims he was searching for documents, but she finds his explanation suspicious. Why would he need to be so secretive in his own home? With a somber look, Ulysses admits he was looking for files related to his mother's death. The unexpected confession catches Sheila off guard, and she quickly apologizes for prying. He dismisses her apology, but their tense moment is cut short. The Duke's voice suddenly booms from the study's entrance, calling for his little bird. Ulysses immediately takes charge. He warns Sheila not to make a sound and grabs her hand, leading her deeper into the darkness. They slip away just as Duke Alcott steps into the room, his hunt for his new bride continuing. Hiding in the darkness, Sheila is pressed uncomfortably close to Ulysses. She realizes this dangerous situation is also a perfect opportunity to bait him and secure his cooperation. After all, if they were tied together, he'd have no choice but to help her survive. Deciding to go all in, she asks him a pointed question. Since he's 20 years old, she wonders if he has any experience in the romance department. Taken aback, Sheila pushes further, asking if he really means not even once. Having regained control of the situation, Ulysses turns to leave. He reminds her that the wedding to his father is tomorrow and gives her a final, cryptic order not to let him down. The use of her real name, Sheila, hangs in the air. As he departs, she wonders if this bizarre encounter means their alliance is finally sealed. The next day arrives, and Sheila walks down the aisle as Clara Priestley in a beautiful wedding gown. The Alcott siblings observe from the crowd. Eunice is unimpressed, but admits the brat looks the part, while Eugene pities her for marrying a man over 50. Standing at the altar, Sheila faces the lecherous Duke as the priest begins the vows. At the altar, Sheila and the Duke exchange their vows, officially sealing the marriage as Ulysses watches silently from his seat. During the ring exchange, Sheila finds a small measure of satisfaction. She considers the expensive gold ring on her finger to be decent compensation for enduring the nauseating performance. The priest finally pronounces them husband and wife, inviting the Duke to conclude the ceremony. As the old man leans in, Sheila panics, seeing no way to dodge the unwanted advance. But just in the nick of time, a voice cuts through the air. Ulysses steps forward, interrupting his father with a gift, a bottle of rare brandy specially commissioned for the occasion. The Duke is instantly distracted, his eyes lighting up at the sight of the fine liquor he's always wanted to taste. He eagerly demands a glass. As Ulysses pours the drink for his delighted father, Sheila's gaze sharpens. She recognizes the opportunity Ulysses has created. With everyone watching, the stage is now perfectly set for her to make her move. With the Duke completely distracted, Sheila seizes her moment. She calmly pours a glass of wine, her hand hovering over it for just a second as a clear drop falls into the dark liquid. Playing the part of the dutiful new bride, she offers the glass to the Duke, who smugly tells her to start calling him husband. Maintaining her composure, Sheila then turns to Ulysses and raises her own glass, proposing a toast to her new stepson. Ulysses, ever the actor, smoothly thanks his new stepmother. He, oblivious, eagerly drains his glass. Suddenly, his cheerful expression turns to one of agony. He makes a choked sound before the wine glass slips from his grasp, shattering on the floor. As he collapses, his children look on in shock. Ulysses rushes forward to catch him, shouting that his father has been poisoned, and the room erupts into chaos. The wedding celebration descends into chaos. As guests cry out in shock, Duke Alcott lies on the floor, in a serious state. While some try to calm the escalating panic, Ulysses calls for the family physician. Dr. Edmund rushes to the scene, quickly confirming that the Duke has been poisoned. Through it all, Ulysses holds Sheila, who plays the role of a terrified bride to perfection. But her act doesn't fool him. He gives her a sharp look, silently asking how she planned to escape the consequences of such a blatant attack. Sheila's steady gaze holds a simple, unspoken promise. Just watch me. The doctor provides a glimmer of hope, announcing that the poison is not a rare one, and he can prepare an antidote right away. But before relief can set in, Eunice steps forward. With cold authority, she orders the guards to seal the banquet hall. She declares that no one is leaving until the culprit is found. With the hall on lockdown, the guests murmur nervously amongst themselves. Eunice steps forward, her eyes fixed on Sheila. She declares that since her father only drank wine from his new bride and Ulysses, they will be the first ones searched for poison. Sheila, still playing the timid bride, gives a simple nod of agreement. But then, the unexpected happens. Sheila suddenly lets out a choked gasp. Before anyone can react, she collapses, a dark crimson staining her white dress. Ulysses catches her just in time, his mind racing. He assumes this is her desperate plan to clear her own name by becoming a victim. Just as he thinks he's figured her out, a sharp, burning sensation rips through his own chest. He stumbles back, coughing violently as he too feels the poison taking hold. As he crumples to the floor, he can only wonder when she managed to strike. The room erupts in panic as two more victims hit the ground, and someone screams for the doctor. Sheila's eyes flutter open. The first person she sees is Eugene, the Duke's eldest son, watching over her. He looks genuinely relieved that she's awake. A maid informs her that after she received the antidote, Eugene stayed by her side all night out of concern. But in the treacherous Alcott household, such kindness is suspicious. Sheila wonders if he's truly a good person or just another player monitoring her every move. As if reading her thoughts, Eugene calmly reassures her that he understands her caution after such a terrible incident. She then asks about the Duke. Eugene explains that while his father survived, the poison has left him paralyzed and unable to speak. Internally, Sheila celebrates this news. A powerless Duke is one she can easily control, allowing her to claim the authority of the house. When she asks about the culprit, Eugene reveals it was a maid named Sophia who acted out of jealousy. Hearing this, Sheila agrees that the maid is truly vicious and must face the consequences. Eugene confirms that his sister, Eunice, has already ordered the maid Sophia's execution. Playing the part of the grateful stepmother, Sheila thanks him for watching over her and gently reminds him of his duties as the eldest son, especially now that the Duke is incapacitated. Eugene respectfully kisses her hand and calls her mother before he leaves, a surprisingly kind gesture that makes Sheila wonder if she misjudged him. But this was all part of her master plan. Once alone with her own maid, Sheila asks if Sophia was saved. The maid confirms the escape went perfectly. In a quick flashback, we see her helping the accused poisoner flee the city in secret. Sheila then provides a letter of introduction and travel money, ensuring Sophia begins a new life far away with a trusted friend. The jealous maid was just a convenient pawn in Sheila's successful plot to neutralize the Duke. As her loyal maid turns to leave, she pauses, looking as if she has one last important question for her mistress. As her maid turns to leave, she pauses with one last, crucial question. She asks Sheila why she really saved Sophia. The girl had agreed to take the fall, so letting her be executed would have been the safest and easiest option. Sheila's answer is simple but reveals her core principles. She is also a commoner. She explains that if she were ever in such a desperate situation, she would hope for help, not betrayal. Deeply moved, the maid declares that Sheila is the most noble-like person she has ever met. Waving her hand, Sheila jokingly complains about the money she spent and tells her to go before she regrets it. The maid smiles and turns to leave, but she stops dead in her tracks. Ulysses Alcott is blocking the doorway, his expression unreadable. The maid stammers his name in shock. He ignores her, his cold gaze fixed solely on Sheila. He came to see, he says, if the one who tried to harm his new stepmother was dead yet.